All right, everyone, let's go on a nice drive out here in the wilderness on a nice curvy road in my 2024 Ford Mustang GT. Only options on this one, I'll make it brief. 301A, active valve exhaust, the blackout package, the night pony package, spare tire, I think that's it. It's a 6-speed manual. It is the GT, of course. Just a quick walk around. You can also see pretty aggressive front end. Here's the lighting signature on it, which looks quite nice. And this is it at idle with the track mode. So yeah, let's go ahead, get in and take a drive. So let's go ahead and we'll go to my Mustang. We'll put the exhaust mode in track here. We'll go with the cluster theme of the new SVT Cobra. And we'll go to my custom mode as well, which has the Sport Plus, traction control is still on, and then track for the other two items. Except I overrode the cluster theme. So it has 3,000 miles on it, as you can see. Let's go ahead, we'll just leave it in this, I guess, for it. We can see our fun little animation. And let's go ahead and get started. On a road that's kind of small like this, you almost immediately feel that the Mustang is pretty big. It's pretty wide, got some big hips. This is a non-performance package car, so we just have the regular springs, dampenings, all that fun stuff, and tuning. And as a result, it's not what I would call a handling beast. In comparison, my 2016 Focus ST handled like a go-kart comparatively, but did not have the raw power of this car or that sound. Or the sex appeal. In the sport mode, the throttle is nicely mapped. I definitely like it a lot better than the normal mapping. Typically I feel like most of the difference in drive modes is going to be in an automatic transmission, with the difference in that tuning, and when you get a manual you don't really care. Now interestingly, the main thing here that we get is that difference in the throttle mapping, so it's a little bit more quick twitched in response, which is nice. This one also has just the regular GT brakes, which means 4-piston Brembos in the front and single non-branded in the rear. But it's a beautiful view. But they do work very well for what they are. Had a couple, well, just one emergency stop that I had to make, and it delivered quite well. So we're gonna take it relatively easy on this road. There are some bikers, we've got some fallen rocks. Absolutely beautiful drive on this fine morning. Also really like this SVT Cobra theme. Think it looks pretty cool. But with this car being as big as it is on this narrow road, we're looking at, I don't know, maybe 3 inches each side in excess. So you do have to kind of point and shoot pretty accurately. thing I've noticed is with the stick shift, you definitely do not use the brakes near as much, which is a nice side effect. But you do have a clutch to worry about replacing at some point. So, I mean, less brakes, but still wearable items in other areas that are now introduced. I do really like the steering wheel. It's got pretty nice grips. The 10 and 2 notches are very nice. Feel good in the hand. Also like that it's a flat bottom steering wheel. And then the material in all of the GTs anyways is all this higher end leather. On the 401A package, you do also get perforated, kind of a different stitching part down in here with some perforations, which lead to better grip. And then in the Dark Horse, you also get, I think it's suede in that area, which is quite nice. I don't think I could ever have a suede steering wheel with how sweaty my hands are, but that would be nice for a lot of people. As you can see, a lot of bikers, so definitely need to make sure we see around these turns, not too fast.
Eyes of steel. Biking.
Yeah, biking this road, dang. And this engine is pretty decently torquey once you get up around 3,000 RPMs or so. Anything past 3,000 is much better. Below that, you start to fall off. So going in, you know, about third gear at 3,000 RPMs or so for some more, just trying to have a medium spirited driving, not very spirited, is more than enough. But if you need to get that passing power or something real quick, I definitely recommend downshifting to get to that 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs. That's where you're going to have way more power. And of course, since it redlines at 7,500, you have quite a bit of bandwidth to work with there. So if I shift down to fourth, now we're looking at 2,000 RPMs. And if I just kind of give it a decent amount of gas right here, it takes a second to come out of that. We go back down to that speed. I do have active rev matching on, which works very well. Every now and then I catch that I need to give just a little bit of gas for it to be a perfect transition, but in this case, when we have that more like 3,000 RPMs and we give it the gas, definitely a lot more responsive. So keep those RPMs high. Now, this is just my daily vehicle, so I don't need something that can rip through the curves on a regular basis, and this does a fine job. So not having the performance pack in this case, I've never personally driven a performance pack car. From what I've read, they ride a lot harsher and are just, you know, more extreme on a regular basis. So the regular Mustang GT in this case for me is probably a better fit. But depending on your lifestyle and what this vehicle is for you, especially if you want it for anything handling wise, other than a weekend trip every now and then, I would definitely recommend the performance pack. Really do start to push the edge of this car, you will notice these 255 width tires on this, the Pro Contact RX I want to say, are not insanely good for traction. And on top of that, they're not really good for many things. So once if I keep this car long enough to need new tires, I will definitely not be putting these back on it. I've noticed wet traction is kind of in the middle of the road. You kind of feel like you're on skates every now and then. When you do get the performance pack, you do get 255s front and then 275s in the rear, but those are summer only. In this case, they are a all season. So if you do need something, you will probably need like winter tires, for example, if you are going to drive that car in the snow. On the Dark Horse, they do put 305 and 315 for the handling package, which are some seriously thick and meaty tires on a car of this caliber. And I'm sure that those probably tramline really bad, but in general have pretty great grip when going around the corners and such. For this car, not being the performance pack, it does not have the oil cooler, and as you can see, the engine oil temp is at a 233. I don't remember if this is an actual sensor that does the oil temp or if it's perceived based upon other input parameters and such, but regardless, this car will go up pretty fast to 230 and get even higher. I've seen it as high as 250 or 255, which is starting to get closer to that danger zone of being where oil degrades relatively fast. So in this car, if you do plan on driving it pretty hard on a regular basis, either make sure you keep up with the oil changes or potentially get an oil cooler, whether it's the Ford one or I've seen some other ones that you can use, and it should work probably just as well, if not better, than the original Ford part. This car is completely stock, so this is exactly what you would get on an out-of-box experience of a Mustang that's spec'd out like this. I'll say it once, I'll say it again, the active valve exhaust is one of my favorite options. Driving around in track on this, where it's pretty loud, not loud enough to give you a headache or something like that, but sounds pretty good, versus when I was on the drive up here of about an hour or so, having it just on the normal mode was loud enough to where, you know, you could hear it every now and then, but it was absolutely no drone, which, to be fair, this track mode also has no drone on the highway in 6th gear at around 2,500 RPMs. But definitely worth the upgrade in cost. At least it was, for this car, it was $1,225.
Deer.
Yeah, there's a deer. For 2024, the active valve exhaust was $1,225, which 100% worth it in my opinion. For 2025, it is $1,595, which is starting to get relatively expensive. But one thing of note is that any aftermarket exhaust is going to be a pretty penny. They really ratchet it up on, especially the Mustang. Back when I had my Focus ST for a Borla, I want to say it was something in the realm of $1,000, and you'll see the Mustang ones are pretty expensive in comparison. I've seen them all the way up as $2,500, $4,500, which is kind of insane. And a lot of those do employ the same active valve exhaust, and having your exhaust modes right here is quite handy. So even if you are planning on upgrading at a later point, some of those plug into that in order to kind of give those different ranges of stuff. Decent amount of body roll when you go around the curves. And overall, you don't really feel like you're glued to the road. It's a big combination of the relatively skinny and non-performance tires, the pretty compliant springs that lead to a good ride, but not necessarily great handling, coupled with just some chassis flex and overall the spring rates and everything. Like, it definitely is not ideal, I wouldn't say. But again, it is fun still. It's not that it's not fun, and it is better than a lot of cars. It's just that in comparison to some better handling cars that I've experienced, the non-performance pack GT does not instill a ton of confidence, but it's pretty fun to do on a, you know, every now and then basis. Like, it just does not instill confidence in the same way that, just as a random example, my Focus ST did. My Focus ST, it was kind of the engine would be the limiting factor, not the handling. Whereas here, it's almost like the handling is 100% the limiting factor by a long shot. Like, you have ample amounts of power, but then you start powering through the curve and you're just kind of freaked out almost immediately. Slow by these people. With it being so tight, I don't feel comfortable going too much past the limit, especially when you got wide trucks like that one. And we are sitting with just a couple inches on each side, so. But again, brakes are strong, feel good. Thanks everyone for watching. Till the next one.